Were you surprised by Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? I was. I feel like we all had what we believed to be rock-solid fan theories going into the movie, and then almost none of them came true. That's crazy. So I thought it would be fun to round up some of the wildest, most popular Doctor Strange 2 theories that wound up being completely wrong. Were we fools to think these? Or could these happen down the line still? Let's discuss. Oh, and there will be spoilers, obviously, so beware. Wanda is the big bad of the Doctor Strange sequel. Wow, I'll tell you all, that came as a shock. Although I've been saying for a while that a hero like Wanda or Hulk should break bad to inject more personal stakes into the narrative, I never thought they would actually do it. One of the big theories going into the film was how Wanda would come to Strange for help in searching for her children, and the two would travel the multiverse together looking for them. Fun, right? Yeah, that's not what happened. The movie almost immediately announced Wanda was the villain, and everything after that orchard scene just cemented that Wanda had long passed the point of no return.
Were there others? In the graveyard, were there others?
I think I said anything about a graveyard, Professor.
Like, during her first attack on Camartage, I thought they would make it so Wanda wasn't actually eliminating anyone so she could be redeemed by the end, but nope. There were plenty of crispy bodies in all her carnage. And then her attack on Illuminati headquarters, oh man, I'm still scarred by that. Anyways, I'm curious how many of you after WandaVision thought that a heel turn was coming from Wanda? Because yes, it does make sense in retrospect, but now, knowing where Wanda ends up, it makes me want to reevaluate that entire series. Piggybacking on the whole Wanda being a hero angle, that brings me to the X-Men. We all know the X-Men are coming, and with Professor X basically confirmed in the trailers, a lot of us thought that this movie would be the film to fully reintroduce the mutants into the MCU. Maybe there would be a universe that Strange and Wanda travel to that had mutants in it, or to explore that a bit more, there was a theory that Wanda would be responsible. So you know how in the comics there's the famous House of M storyline where Wanda speaks those magic words and basically wipes out all mutants from existence? Well, there were talks that the MCU would flip that in a reverse House of M storyline, so like a M of House storyline. I'm still workshopping that. Anyway, instead of Wanda taking away the mutants, she would bring the mutants into our universe, and it would have been a clean way to handle things moving forward. Nope. Not only was there almost no mention of mutants in the movie, but Wanda ended up snapping the neck of one of the most beloved mutants, so consider that theory debunked. Man, Wanda was a hardcore villain. Speaking of villains,
I'm gonna interrupt your regularly scheduled Jacoby here for a second and do this entry for him because I really want to talk about Nightmare. Basically, since Multiverse of Madness was announced, a lot of people theorized that the big bad of the movie might be revealed to actually be Nightmare, the ruler of the dream dimension and one of Doctor Strange's most formidable baddies on the page. Because of course they weren't going to actually make Scarlet Witch the main antagonist, right? Like she was totally going to be revealed to have been like manipulated or something, right? Oh boy. After seeing all the trailers and teasers and TV spots and whatnot, I even threw my support behind the theory in a CBR video. Given all the mentions of dreams and nightmares and such, I figured it was a slam dunk, a sure thing. Boy was I wrong. Turns out all that dream stuff was hinting at the idea of dream walking, which wound up being a major part of the plot of the movie. And Wanda was indeed the primary antagonist. You can't really blame us for thinking that's the way it was gonna go. Heck, given how important dreams are in the movie, it wouldn't have been that hard to just work him in there and have it feel natural. Maybe that'll be something that Disney and Marvel use for a future movie. Maybe Nightmare's aware of all this dream walking, and that's how he becomes aware of our version of Strange within the MCU, leading to future antagonistic shenanigans. Anyways, that was just a thought. Now let's get you back to the other guy.
Oh, well, that was strange. Anyways, back to me. Doctor Strange 2 had cameos from a lot of Illuminati members, but one much hyped up name was surprisingly missing. There was a theory that Tom Cruise would show up as a different universe version of Iron Man, perhaps portraying the slightly more sinister, superior Iron Man from the comics. I mean, it sort of made sense. Iron Man is normally on the Illuminati, and with the inclusion of Ultron bots in the film and the trailer, a lot of people assumed a version of Tony Stark would make an appearance. Having Cruise play the part would be a fun way to reference the idea that the studio originally wanted Tom Cruise back when they were first casting for the part of Iron Man. But the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist was nowhere to be found. Does that mean that Reed Richards built the Ultron bots in this universe? These are the questions we'll probably never get an answer to. And I have to ask if you think seeing a version of Tony Stark that wasn't Robert Downey Jr. would be jarring overall? I mean, I guess it's good Tom Cruise's Tony wasn't in this movie. I don't think he would have fared well against Scarlet Witch and would have just wound up an exploded gooey mess on the floor. Probably. Speaking of the Illuminati, didn't you think they would end up being more important than they ended up actually being? They're only in the movie for a short amount of time, but the trailers made it seem like they were integral to the plot. But nope, their existence played out very similarly to the X-Force in Deadpool 2. There were a lot of theories surrounding just who would be on the MCU's Illuminati and whether this secretive group would be a multiversal version of the team and be the next big thing in the MCU. But now they all look like tomato paste on the floor of their expensive and ill-designed headquarters. Seriously, those giant statues are a crushing hazard. Why have big glass cages that even the person who designed them had trouble opening? What was with that little gap thing in the Illuminati throne room that Baron Mordo got trapped in? But now, I just don't think the Illuminati are going to show up again. If I was Doctor Strange, I would look at that group's failure and just never mention the idea in our universe. While the Illuminati did give us some fun cameos like John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Haley Atwell as Captain Carter, and Anson Mount returning as Black Bolt, among the others, there are probably those that were disappointed by the lack of cameos in the Strange sequel. And that's probably due to the amount of speculation of big characters making an appearance in the film. At one point, I had heard a theory that the Multiverse of Madness would rival Endgame when it comes to teaming up characters, and we'd see things like Eric Bana's Hulk teaming up with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, Ghost Rider showing up, Ben Affleck's Daredevil making an appearance, and even the older Spider-Man actors. Though the Spider-Man one sorta makes sense. Raimi did the original Spidey trilogy, so thinking Tobey Maguire might pop up wasn't outside the realm of possibility. But turns out the movie wasn't the nostalgia-dipped cameo fest some of us thought it was going to be. And you know what? That's probably better. So this one was a fun theory. I already mentioned that the big question going forward in the MCU is how they'll incorporate the mutants into everything, and some people, including myself, thought Multiverse of Madness would be their launchpad. Well, this theory connects to the X-Men animated show. We know that there's a sequel series called X-Men 97 that's coming out in the future, and some people think that this is going to be the X-Men characters we eventually see in live action. Well, a way to announce that would have been having Patrick Stewart playing the version of Charles Xavier from the cartoon, which would have made a bit of sense if this version of the Illuminati were actually the multiversal Illuminati. That would have somehow bridged the gap between the cartoon universe and the live-action universe. But again, nope. Although this version of Professor X did have his cartoon yellow chair, and we even got a little twinge of the X-Men animated show theme song when he entered, this version of Professor X didn't seem to have any connection to the cartoon character. Probably for the best, because I like my Professor X's alive. If there's one person I was surprised made it out of the movie alive, it was Wong. Like, go back and watch the trailer and you'll see Wong shouting Strange's name like he's in trouble, or it's Wong's cry for help, but when you watch the movie, it's actually Wong cheering that Strange showed up to battle. Anyways, we knew Wong was going to be the Sorcerer Supreme at least at the start of the movie, and there were theories that Wong would have to perish fighting the big bad in order for Strange to reclaim the mantle. After all, it would be weird if Strange is never the Sorcerer Supreme again, right? But after this movie, they made the case for why Wong should remain the Sorcerer Supreme, and Strange can go off on his own separate adventures. When the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer came out, there were a lot of people that suggested Doctor Strange was secretly a Skrull. In some ways, that was the only explanation for why Strange would cast this obviously stupid spell for Peter Parker basically on a whim. And then when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, people still thought this was the case, as it explained why Strange suddenly seemed so bad at magic and had to be stuck in the mirror dimension for basically a whole day. The theory was that Strange would be revealed to be a Skrull in this new movie, but nope. Turns out, whenever Strange isn't the main character of the movie, he makes really dumb decisions. That's what you get when you're a side character, Strange. Though that does beg the question, are there any main characters who you think could still be Skrulls? How about let's say every single Illuminati member was a Skrull, and that would ease the pain of seeing Wanda turn Mr. Fantastic into string cheese. There were a few big teases in the film's marketing that made you think the animated What If show would be vital viewing to this strange sequel. We saw Captain Carter's shield and a version of evil Doctor Strange, which people thought were references to the characters we saw in What If. And the glimpses of Zombie Strange and even Zombie Wanda seem to reference the zombie episode of What If. What I think is funny about this is that the Wanda looking crazed and bloody and zombie-ish wasn't even a zombie. That was just super angry Wanda, which is honestly even more terrifying. But yeah, it turns out none of these characters were the same. So if you only watched What If to prepare for this movie, well, then you might have been a little disappointed. I was honestly hoping for a live-action Uatu appearance because I thought that would fall in line with the whole multiverse theme. But I guess we'll have to wait for that big-headed little goofball to show up, if at all. So I'm not getting interrupted with this one. I want to talk about Chthon. Nightmare as the main villain was already discussed, but if that demon wasn't going to be the main bad guy, then next up probably would have been Chthon. Chthon as a big bad makes sense. In the comics, he's an elder god and has close ties with Wanda, and with the Darkhold in play at the end of WandaVision, it was theorized that he would be the one potentially holding Wanda's kids hostage or would be involved in some capacity. And yes, Chthon is technically mentioned in Doctor Strange 2 as the creator of the Darkhold, who made it on top of Wundagore Mountain, but the evil entity never showed up. We just know he carved the throne room for the prophesized Scarlet Witch and then noped out. Do you think Chthon could make an appearance down the line? I know that Wanda's final scene seemed to signal her end, but what if the dark powers of Chthon are able to resurrect her and save her? Am I just holding on to the idea that Wanda could still be alive? Well, what can I say? I thought she was one of the best heroes and one of the best villains, so of course I want to see more of her. Come on, Chthon, save her from the rubble. This last entry isn't really a theory that people were wrong about, but rather it's going to talk about everything the marketing sort of misled us on. I always like to go back to the official trailer after seeing the full movie to see what tomfoolery was afoot, and there was certainly a lot. Like, the trailer makes it seem like Doctor Strange's meddling with the multiverse in No Way Home is causing the plot of the sequel, but those events were barely referenced. The biggest Spider-Man reference was Doctor Strange wondering if webs could shoot out of Spidey's butt. And I also remember hearing the crowd in my No Way Home showing go a little nuts when the one-eyed tentacle monster showed up in the Doctor Strange post-credit trailer because it looks exactly like famed Strange villain Shuma Gorath. But as it turns out, that wasn't Shuma Gorath, but just another villain that looked exactly like him. What other trailer tricks did you notice? Do you think the movie would have been better if these theories turned out to be true? Or are you happy with the movie we got? I'm seeing a huge divide online about people who love the surprising nature of the story and others who weren't fans. Where do you fall? Let us know in the comments below.